The shape of the screen, also called the aspect ratio, is a storytelling element. The use of the screen shape is part of the creative process. Think about telling a comedy and how timing is so critical when a character enters the frame. This technology decision impacts the story. There are no right or wrong choices, it's creative. But one story may play on many different devices, and there are impacts in conversion as well as how to prepare for theatrical presentations. The choice of format and aspect ratio covers the whole filmmaking process. The format for capture doesn't need to match the format for presentation, although it can. Mastering and distribution may also be different than the presentation. For a filmmaker, it is sometimes best to start with the presentation conditions and work back to understand choices. For this discussion, the main focus is on the theatrical and home venues. While very important, I'm not going to discuss the handheld phone and tablet venue. The theater has two common formats. But first, let me talk about nomenclature. Aspect ratio is the ratio of the width to the height of the screen. If you look at the picture on the left, the screen size is 2048 divided by 858, so the aspect ratio is 2.39. That's 2048 divided by 858. The industry practice is to just say the 2.39 number, and to make it even easier, we just say 239, no point. No 2.39 to 1, just 239, 3 digits only. Question: what is that aspect you are shooting? 133, Academy Aperture. There, you will sound like a filmmaker. Back to the theater. The theater has two aspect ratios, flat and scope. Scope has a wide aspect ratio of 239. In a digital theatrical distribution package, it is sent as 2048 pixels by 858 pixels for a 2K package. Sometimes the movie is sent in a 4K package. Everything doubles, so it's 4096 by 1716 pixels. Flat has an aspect ratio of 185. It's sent as 1998 by 1080 pixels for a 2K package or 3996 by 2160 for a 4K package. I'm only going to use the 2K numbers for the rest of this presentation. If you want the 4K numbers, just double everything. These numbers sound a little funny, but it makes sense for digital cinema. In 2005, the specifications for digital cinema was released with a container of 2048 by 1080 pixels, and companies began making projectors and systems with those values. It bounded the delivery so it would be common formats and not strange deliverables that would be very difficult to manage in the theaters. Much like a standard 35mm film had a standard maximum size with different uses inside the 35mm frame. So a scope image would meet the aspect ratio of 239 and would fit in the DCI container. It has the size of 2048 by 858 pixels. Projector manufacturers and screen manufacturers made systems that properly took this image and displayed it on the screen. Everything can be optimized for this scope aspect ratio. Alternatively, a flat image would meet the aspect ratio of 185 and fit in the DCI container. Projectors and screen manufacturers made systems that properly made this image and displayed it on a screen. Everything can be optimized for this flat presentation as well. So most theaters have two settings, one for flat and one for scope, depending upon the screen, masking, lenses, and systems. So far, easy. You decide between flat and scope, and you make the movie to fit one of those aspect ratios. But what if you want a different aspect ratio, or want to deliver to the home? Well, that's next. The TV industry settled on an aspect ratio of 178 for high-definition TV, and it was set in the 1980s. This replaced the old standard definition TV, which had an aspect ratio of 133, 720 by 480. Of course, this aspect ratio and the HD aspect ratio doesn't match any of the theatrical aspect ratios. An HD TV has a pixel count of 1920 by 1080. This is so-called a widescreen TV. But suppose you want to display a scope movie on an HD television. Well, today the most common way is to put black bars in the top and the bottom of the set. Shown here is red. Some broadcasters and consumers don't like the black bars. After all, they paid good money for all those pixels in the TV, so they like full-frame versions. This involves a thing called pan and scan, to zoom up the image to fix and make sure the action is in the frame. It is actually much more complicated than that, but that's a different tutorial. Or a flat movie, it again has small black bars in the top and the bottom of the set. Fairly easy and almost fits. Alternatively, you can create a presentation for TV and package it for theatrical. You'd want to put it in a flat package in a pillar box format with black bars on the left and the right. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but it is possible. So back to the theater. Suppose you want to do a special non-standard aspect ratio, much like Quentin Tarantino did for the movie Hateful Eight, where he made the movie for a 2:7:7 aspect ratio. Well, it can be done, but it's not recommended. The theaters are set up for scope or flat, and for an unusual presentation, it needs to fit into one of these containers. In the case of Hateful Eight, it was fairly easy to put the image into the scope container. But there are no presets for the unusual aspect ratio. There will be masking for the scope image, so the top and the bottom of the image will not be masked. Rather, it will have a projector black. On a curved screen, it will create smiles in the top and the bottom of the screen. This is an example what you'd see on a curved screen, an angled projector with leaving projector black areas at the top and the bottom of a screen, sort of a smiley or frowny face on the screen. Suppose you wanted to do something special that is between scope and flat, say a 2:00 aspect ratio. Again, you need to fit in one of the other flat or scope containers. In general, the recommendation from ISDCF is that for aspect ratios under 1:8:5, such as the old TV 1:3:3, pillar box it in a flat package. For aspect ratios from 1:8:5 to 2:3:5, letterbox it in a flat package. And for aspect ratios above 2:3:5, letterbox it in a scope package. Don't expect the theaters to change the masking for the main presentation, since the pre-show and trailers will be on the same screen. Hope this helps in understanding aspect ratios. Visit isdcf.com for more information.